Hi everyone. I'm honored to join your class today. As you probably heard, my name is Brooke Brown and I'm the communication specialist at Strong Families. Since your topic this week is communication, Dr. Trent asked if I would mind sharing a bit of my personal story about the little butterfly girl and how I use narrative techniques to find purpose in my challenges. Who can say no to him? So thank you for having me. Now, aside from the love and grace of God in heaven, there is nothing in the world more boundless than captivating stories. We all know the power of fantasy and fiction. Our favorite books, movies, TV shows, plays and even role-playing video games can let us escape, encourage us and relate to our troubles when it seems like no one else does. But, sometimes it's easy to forget that everyone, from any walk of life, carries their own stories with them at all times. Think about the last conversation you had. My guess is many of you are telling a story. We all do it, every day, several times a day. Everyone at any age, in any condition or circumstance can appreciate a good story. Whether it's when we snag a few minutes with a friend to relay how the tiniest action altered our entire day, or explaining how one's past experiences makes them the best candidate for the job to a potential employer, we all want what we share to be compelling enough to make connections and reveal our most accurate portrait. It is the building of relationships through the exchange of our personal stories that allows us to achieve mutual understanding on such a deeper level that we gain the ability to end the perpetuation of unwarranted stigma, and instead, initiate truly positive change in the society surrounding us. Your story just might inspire or comfort and encourage someone else to keep moving forward. I believe we face trials and must overcome challenges in life so that we might gain compassion and care for those around us, as described in 2 Corinthians. By the same token, in this technology-driven age, we are constantly inundated with conflicting messages. On one hand, we are encouraged to capitalize on our own uniqueness. Speak out, break the mold. And on the other hand, we're told we should conform, just do our jobs. Well, as you can see, both things are a bit tricky for me. Being born with moderately severe cerebral palsy has made the majority of my muscles, including the ones used for speaking clearly, extremely obstinate. My limbs are largely unwilling to do what I ask, no matter how much I coax and plead. This obviously limits my mobility and in turn, my capability to do just any old job I can find. Therein lies the reason creativity is essential to my survival. But, there again, that means I have to get people to stick around long enough after they hear my restricted voice to realize that, oh yeah, she is actually home with all the lights on. Even if they can read a description of my background, skill level and achievements, they often need to be given something more emotionally tangible in order to bridge the gap in understanding. This is where the blessing and power of storytelling comes in handy. I know they teach participants to always assume competency in more recent disability trainings, but it still appears to be a difficult concept for some to grasp. If we had more time, I could tell you many tales of my encounters with people's ignorance, especially in restaurants. Some of them are actually kind of amusing. But, that's part of why I share my own stories in many various forms, each one as intensely personal as the next. For example, I started writing The Little Butterfly Girl after a trusted friend suggested I might try writing something for kids as my first attempt at being published. It sounded like a good idea, but I knew I wanted the story to have a deeper message that would speak to readers of all ages. So, I began thinking back to my own childhood and the many school recesses I spent retreating into my own imagination because my disability made it difficult to join in my friends' fun and games. The Lord always showed up wherever I went in my head to make sure I knew He had a special plan for me and help me be strong during my biggest struggles. When I returned to those enchanted lands in my head after so many years, there was Bridget, anxiously waiting to tell me about her own private adventures with Jesus, which she made me promise to write down. It's my best illustration of what faith and imagination can do together. I meet a lot of parents and teachers of kids with extra abilities who say the book is not only fun to read together, but also gives them hope for the children's future. That's all I want. I know Bridget's story probably won't have a huge impact on the world at large, but I just want whoever reads it to be encouraged and reminded that the Lord delights in all the things that make us unique and brings each person pure joy, even a child's love of fantasy. And along the same lines, because He does love us so abundantly, He wants to work miracles in our lives, if only we have the faith to ask. If everyone ordered the anniversary edition, there are discussion questions in the back to help you think through what you might have learned from the story. It isn't always easy, being brave enough to open the Pandora's box that is my life, covered in all the messy labels of disability in front of strangers. However, some good never fails to find its way out of every story I willingly pull from beneath the lid. With one, I may find a new remedy for tender wounds still lingering from my days of schoolyard torment. With another might come a way for me to gently encourage someone to let go of their misguided ideas about people with disabilities. And still others could reveal God's purpose for certain hardships in my life, like with Moses in Exodus and the blind man in John 9. I discovered my passion for creative writing in 4th grade, when the Lord gave me an amazing teacher that showed me the power in unleashing my mind and imagination on paper with a few drops of ink. With the right string of words, I could be seen, be heard, and do all the things my physical body could not. I knew then, at 10 years old, that writing was my gift in compensation for all the struggles that my wheelchair and distorted voice bring, and God expected me to use it. I just didn't know His plans for me went so far beyond the page. As I grew older, I came to understand that through all the endless frustration, pain, and even insults, my time in this chair was designed to be an opportunity. I've never let it keep me from living a full, well-rounded life, so it's a conversation starter. A chance to illustrate grace. An invitation to encourage others. Analytically speaking, this idea is the theme behind The Little Butterfly Girl. Finishing the story became my accidental senior project during my final semester of college in the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at ASU, due to a mix-up in my class schedule, which presented the opportunity for me to do an independent study with my favorite professor. Our time together led her to nominate me for the Walter Cronkite Outstanding Undergraduate Award. And to add to that honor, I was chosen out of the 3 recipients to be the student speaker at graduation. I'd never really thought about speaking in public because, let's face it, it's hard enough getting a couple people to understand me, let alone a couple hundred. I knew I'd use my augmentative communication device, like the one you're hearing now, but I was still completely terrified. As usual though, God reminded me I just needed to trust Him and chill out. He was running the show. I did as He asked and was rewarded with a standing ovation. I'm sharing this with you for 2 reasons. The first is to demonstrate that sometimes God will use the thing that makes you the most uncomfortable to illustrate the full extent of His power. People always ask me if I'm angry at God for allowing me to have cerebral palsy. Despite the daily obstacles, nearly constant muscle pain, 12 or 13 surgeries and multiple hospital stays, the answer is no. I trust God's plan. Though, if I had to name one point of contention, it would be my speech. And yet, the bulk of my work consists of giving workshops and presentations in front of groups, and I love it. Granted, I use the communication apps on my phone for the majority of them, but that just proves my point. God is the true author of our stories and infinitely able to use my limitations and yours, too. If you watch for His fingerprints on your struggles, so to speak, they'll show you how to rewrite the perspective of your story. I also share this to assure you that using narrative techniques does not mean you must be an eloquent writer. Storytellers use many different tools and all have distinct voices. It's true that anyone who reads my written work will quickly realize I have many of the same thought processes, emotions, desires and goals as any other 30-something typically abled woman, even though my speech may be difficult to understand. But, I'm also able to connect with those that watch me dance or do Pilates by explaining that while I have to rely on my power chair for my general mobility, I still enjoy being physically active and pushing the limits of my body. Not to mention that when you have cerebral palsy, Regular exercise is your best shot at getting your muscles to cooperate on a daily basis. Furthermore, I've utilized my life stories as anecdotes for inspiration and motivational speeches, and as supporting evidence for policy change at advocacy events. Performing and writing true-to-life scenes with Theater 360 acting troupe also allows me to further illuminate my personality and experiences beyond my disability by expanding my artistic range and continuing to build my self-confidence when in the presence of others. Truthfully, I'd be happy staying in the audience, just watching the cast act out my scripts. But, if I did that, I wouldn't be as independent as I am. The first monologue I ever recited on stage was all about the trepidation I felt while giving the student address at my college graduation. That's what started me on the path here today, realizing my life's purpose is bigger than just encouraging people on paper or screen. Our personal stories, however they come, are our most powerful tools. They will take us farther than any combination of facts and figures. That's why I feel God has given me this intense passion for assisting others to harness the strengths of theirs, and therefore why I created Brooks Butterfly Touch, Creative Storytelling Services. Your stories don't have to be told in one certain form or contain all the perfect words. They just have to be genuine and presented in a way that fits your audience, your message or objective, personality, and communication strengths. Some examples are presentation slides, video or pictures with music, a script to be performed, or a traditional written narrative. The possible formats for a story are really endless. I encourage you to get creative in finding the higher purpose for your abilities and experiences. Don't be afraid to indicate the ways in which your hardships or limitations have enhanced your ability to persevere and overcome challenges in all aspects of life. Like 1 Corinthians 12:22 says, in fact, some parts of the body that seem weakest and least important are actually the most necessary. Similarly, the most important element in any story with the power to effect change is the voice behind it. That's the thing about our favorite stories. It's not the plots that we remember forever. It's the dynamic characters that touch souls and make permanent impressions in the mind. Are you ready to discover the power in your story? No matter what form you choose, all stories should answer the same basic questions. Who are the key people in your story? What is the main trauma or struggle you're facing? When did it start? What was your turning point or the thing that made you seek help? Where are you now? Why did you decide to share your story? What is your message, or how do you want to encourage others through your story? Or if it's easier, you can just use the 5 P's of storytelling, which are people, place, problem, progress, and point. Dr. Trent has my story planning worksheets posted for you. Use whichever one appeals to you most. There are a couple of different types of mind maps, and one sheet of just brainstorming questions and other story prompts on the back. Try them all and feel free to pass them along to others. Also, my Transforming the Heart of Your Story workbook is available online and should be in the Strong Families bookstore soon. It has other helpful questions, as well as space for you to jot down your own ideas. I know it's difficult to be vulnerable about your struggles in front of strangers, but trust me when I tell you that sharing your story will do as much for healing your own wounds as it will to inspire hope in others. Remember that the Word says we were created to bear one another's burdens in love. God has already overcome them all. Now, I'd love to answer any questions you have. Please send them to Dr. Trent and I'll respond ASAP. You can also contact me directly via the website on the About the Author page in your book. If you don't have the book, then just go to www.wheels2wings.com. Love and blessings to each of you.